You see the floor coming at you with violent force and speed. It is inevitable. You have fallen again this morning, naked and with your blood covering your face and the floor from your now broken nose. You start to feel panic. As the wounds continue to seep blood, you realize you're unable to move your heavy body on your own. Anxiety starts to move in, and you realize you need to call for help. This is not a new experience for Marcello Sciortino, who has Friedreich's ataxia and has spent most of the last 6 years confined to a wheelchair. I'd like to quote Marcello: "I feel like I'm being lazy and procrastinating when life gets in the way, but there's no point to life without living. I often feel unaccomplished, as though a day has been wasted, but then I look back, recognize and realize that struggles, challenges and dull days in life make it worth every second of living, learning and striving to survive. I'm building a strong foundation. My intent is to lay bricks every day. Today, I saw only grains of sand." It's not procrastination, but realization. Marcello and I have a very thoughtful discussion about so many aspects of having a disability. Both of us have areas of commonality where we get it, and yet each of us has lived a very different path to where we are now. During the interview, Marcello will talk about that incident where he broke his nose, having fallen on the bathroom floor. I will talk about an incident where I fell out of a hospital bed and laid there for a long time, waiting for someone to come and help me. Marcello asked me how I handled that situation mentally and emotionally, and when I shared my method of managing my anxiety in that moment, he wrote me the most beautiful email, and I'd like to share that with you now before we get into the podcast recording. He said, "Hey Vera-Lee, your podcast and mission are amazing. I had such a great time being a guest and talking one-on-one with you. My apologies for being nervous. This was my first video call and podcast. Woohoo! I am very happy. Thank you so much. We are given what we can handle in this life. I think of this as a test, and the answers are displayed in strife, pain, discipline, kindness, and strength. We're going to pass this test, and in the end, we'll finally know that it was all an illusion. God developed an amazing game for us angels called life. We chose 2 of the strongest warriors as avatars to live as. We knew what we were getting ourselves into, and we are playing on a very challenging mode. I fell in the bathroom this morning, but rather than feeling defeated, sad, and saying, 'Why me?' I tried your method and let go of all negative emotion, focusing on accepting the necessary help and immediately driving calm effort and energy to get up. Wow, this Vera-Lee meditation is the answer to find strength in those extra challenging moments. You are awesome." Well, thank you, Marcello, and from the bottom of my heart, I think you are awesome too. I had no idea until the end of the podcast recording that this was your first interview. And I note that during our discussion, you mentioned that you feel you communicate better non-verbally. And I would like to say to everyone listening to this episode, despite the physical challenges, I think Marcello had spoken beautifully all the way throughout this interview, and I meant what I said about encouraging you to keep going. It's people like us that, in sharing our stories and our daily ways that we manage both our disabilities and our mindset, that can inspire other people to know they're not alone. They can do it too. Thank you, Marcello. Have you ever had one of those gut-wrenching moments when life ground you to your knees and you found yourself asking in despair, "Why me?" This podcast is all about sharing your stories and journeys, from asking why me to declaring this is why me. Discover how ordinary human beings like you and I have found their extraordinary levels of hope, courage, compassion, and provided a new perspective for greater potential and self-empowerment during their darkest defining moment. As a creative artist and coach myself, my guests and I discuss the interconnectedness of emotion and transformation in those moments, and how their actions then seize the opportunity for discovering their unfiltered and authentic voice, and ultimately their life's purpose. I invite you to join me each week as we share insights into how adversity can be turned into a unique advantage. Today's guest is Marcello Shortuino, founder of You Are an Inspiration page. Marcello has a condition that has affected his life in many ways and is here today to discuss how he has flipped his physical adversity into a real advantage to help both himself and others overcome challenges in life. Welcome to the WhyMe podcast, Marcello.
Thank you.
Now, I'd also love to ask you, what was the first question that you asked yourself today?
Oh, that's a tough one. And probably, what is the shower going to be like today? What is my morning routine going to be like? It's different every morning, and it's painful to think that way, but I get through it.
Yeah. Look, I think there's two sides to that as well, because when you recognize what your challenge is, then you're making yourself ready to face it, right?
True, yes.
Yeah, rather than being in denial, for example, or, avoiding it. And certainly I understand when you have physical challenges and all the different things that relate to that, and we'll get into this with your story, of course, that acknowledgement of that information is a really vital part of how we then approach it and work to overcome those challenges.
Yes.
So let's get into your story, Marcello. How about you explain to us what it is, the condition that you have? Were you born with it? Was this something that developed? And what was your why me moment where you got to that point of saying, why did this happen to me? And what did you do about it?
Yes, okay. My name is Marcello Shortino. And I was, I say born with. I do. I have a genetic, inherited, degenerative neuromuscular condition called Friedreich's ataxia. It has been very challenging. I was diagnosed at 14 years old, and I'm currently 24. So it's been 10 years now. Yep. And I was actually diagnosed on my birthday. My 10th birthday, or my 14th birthday. And it was actually more of a blessing, and I will explain that. In grade school and growing up, I always got, picked on, and just none of my peers would understand, why can't Marcello walk in a straight line? Or run the mile in gym class, or why does Marcello fall down whenever he exerts himself? I mean, that was a question that it would be put on me, and then I'd ask myself at the same time, and it really frustrated me. So, like I said, it was more of a blessing when we got the diagnosis shortly after graduating from my grade school, which actually went from kindergarten through 8th in the States. And it was such a relief whenever I knew what was wrong. My parents, on the other hand, they were devastated by the news because it's currently, it was then and currently still is untreatable. There's no treatment, no cure. All we can do is hope for the best and exercise and better our thinking, of course. Now, the condition has just, it's affected so many things in my life. Public interaction is just, I refuse to do it a lot. I've always been a shy person and, like an introvert, kind of scared to get out there. But at the same time, not really, in a sense, caring. I have no desire to, say, go to like a high school party or anything like that. At the time, of course. It was tough day in, day out. And it currently still is. But I knew I couldn't give up, right? I was still young at the time, and even now I've got progressively. It's been degenerative, right? So I've been progressing more and more throughout the time. I was showing symptoms a couple of years before I was diagnosed, and once we knew what it was like, okay, we're gonna run our course and just see what happens, really. Now we did all kinds of stuff. My dad, my father, he was diagnosed with Lyme disease around the same time. So he had a tick bite and he got the bullseye rash. And it's been chronic in a sense in his life, and still is affecting him. That has been a burden on him, and then his son having had a condition is also a burden. We have gone through so much testing. Like I said, there's no cure for my condition, but there's possible treatments for Lyme's. So I've done so many treatments with them, intravenous antibiotics, you name it, and it's in there, which has been a journey, to say the least.
Yeah.
Now, my condition, I'd say 6 years now, I've been, quote unquote, confined to a wheelchair. I'm dependent on a chair right now to get around. I've been maneuvering to or on and off the toilet to use the restroom, and then also to bathe, to shower. Same thing. And with the progression, currently at this point, every day is a different day. That's why I'm kind of having a tough time remembering all the challenges that started and now where I am today. Like we were saying, the bathroom in the morning. I go into it with a mindset and leave with another one. So I go into it with such strength and desire, like, man, I am going to succeed through everything that I'm doing and everything that I'm going to be trying. And, after it's like, okay, I fell down 4 different times. Thing it hurt. I didn't break anything, or there wasn't any blood. But, just falling down that mental strain it's tense. It really is.
Yeah.
My condition has, it's affected so many things. But the epiphany in my life that just really changed my views with my condition was going to a disability financial aid meeting with my parents whenever I was 20 years old. I totally understand. I'm getting older. You need to have a source of income. You need to have a job. Now, I've always been goal oriented. I was raised in positive thinking, always inspiring family household, and so appreciative for that. Now, at the meeting, they were discussing different job opportunities for the disabled, and how I can get on government assistance to help me with my living, and I refuse to hear that. I mean, I understand if you really need it, but I really don't think I do. And I don't want to have to fall in that category, even though there are people that use the system very, very badly. And then with the lifestyle, I didn't want to fall to, okay, you gotta live this way, right? You can't be a success when you're disabled. I mean, that is the common thought, but of course that is not the truth. Also, I want to prove to myself that I can chase my dreams regardless of my situation. And, oh, man, that's such a special way of thinking. So the proof of that in security, right? Even though I have my adversities, I know I can reach my goals, my dreams. I know I can make an impact in this world that will be amazing. And just from realizing that from the disability aid meeting, I now understand my afflictions and my adversities they hold the capability to inspire others, to motivate, to amaze people, to wow them.
Yeah, I totally relate to that myself. And certainly there were periods in my life where I would be in hospital for weeks at a time, unable to really do much at all. And there were moments that I remember vividly lying down and looking at my hand sitting on the bed and telling myself, I want to raise that little finger like this, and I couldn't do it. And in those moments, you have a choice. Are you going to give up on yourself and say, hey, my body is not participating in life today? Or are you going to say, hey, I still have my mental capacity. I still have this wonderful asset that we call our brain that's walking around or being stuck in bed with me and able to make something of this moment, able to tap into the power that I still have. And I love the fact that you recognize you're going to have days that are up and down, right? So you said, like, at the moment you're quite reliant on your wheelchair, but that's not always the case. And so allowing to have those goals that you set and be flexible in those, because as you said, every day is a different day, that is such an important part of a lot of the things that I help with my clients with, in having flexible goal setting. And I'd love to hear your view on how, when you set a goal and that your body's not going to cooperate that day to allow you to achieve that goal, how important that mindset is of inspiring yourself to set another goal that you can achieve.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it really is, it's so important, right? I'm a living testament of this. Day in, day out. I fall down constantly. There is no excuse not to get back up. And I mean, honestly, if that is physical, mental, or just something you don't have ambition in doing, you fall down and you just get right back up. So important. And I mean, it's important to show that to others, because people with disabilities, I mean, use "we" as a term. I feel have an advantage. And I mean, we really need to impact others with that message. And, show them that, yeah, you need to get up, you need to try again. Hey, and something I always say is try, learn, try. And I don't want to say fail, because I don't believe in the term. I just call it falling. You fall down, you get back up. You fall again, you get back up. You keep falling, but you're gonna get up, and oh man, it's just, it's beautiful.
Yeah, it is beautiful, and being able to inspire people is something that everybody who goes through challenges has the opportunity to do, because people around you, when they observe you fall down and get back up, and it's in the getting back up, because we all fall down, right? We all have times that we fall down, and we all have different reasons for falling down.
Yes.
We have disabilities that will have us be in situations where physically we're going to fall down, where emotionally we're going to have days that are harder than others, where mentally some of those days our mindset is not as rock solid as it is at other times. And it is so important to have that strength inside, which everybody can tap into if we know how. It's so important to be able to allow people to witness that and witness the getting up, because that is where the inspiration comes from, right? That is in the doing. It's in the doing. It's the living every day in, this is me, this is what I deal with every day. These are my challenges, which will vary. And this is how I live through that, how I live and breathe that every day. And I love that you're sharing your journey with people so that they can observe that journey that you're on, I also wanted to touch on something that you said earlier about that you have a genetic disease, so you were born with it.
Yes.
And yet it was 14 before you received your diagnosis, and how different that experience was for yourself compared to your dad.
For myself, like I was saying, it was a relief. That diagnosis was, I finally knew what was going on. And leading up to it, no doubt, my father, and actually my parents, my mom and my dad, it hurt them. It really did. I recall I had days with my mom where, I was a younger child at the time, but I would roll back and forth on the ground and saying I want to go home. I don't know exactly what that meant. I have a strong faith, to let you know, and in a sense, now I think I was talking about heaven, like I want to go. But I don't know. I was saying I want to go home, so I mean, just the pain that I unintentionally put on them. It was a little bit much. A little bit much in a sense. Now with my father and him having his condition and me with mine, it's two different things, right? I mean, in a sense, I guess it does kind of help me out, and him having his stuff and me having mine, because, it changes the concern on either of us at a certain time, especially whenever you don't want the sympathy, but we're both getting through it. So, I mean, my parents understand what it is, and they support me in all I'm doing. They're actually they're proud for my realization that, like, this condition to me is a gift. Yeah, my mess is my message. It's just so powerful.
Yeah, it is so powerful. And I'm sure that through this journey and through witnessing your attitude to your adversity, if we could label it as adversity, which covers all the different aspects that you deal with and have dealt with through your life. I know that for me, it was having those hard discussions with my parents. When I was sick, I mean, I was told at 29 that I wouldn't live past 30, because at that point in time, I was still undiagnosed for the main cause of my emergency visits. And they told me that I had what they called difficult to treat asthma, not responsive to conventional treatment. And to me, they were telling me without realizing, well, you have asthma, but you have something else and we don't know what it is. And so it was a matter of discovering that what is it that's not responding to the treatment, because it's actually not asthma in the first place. So I also experienced that relief in the diagnosis. I was also told with that diagnosis of vocal cord dysfunction that there was no cure, and at that time there was no treatment for my particular kind. And so I do relate and understand that, but I also understand that relief that, okay, now I know what it is. And it's that knowing what something is that can do a number of things. It helps to validate that our mess is because of something. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah. So there's a reason for it. It's not that we're making it up. It's not that there's just something wrong with us and, we can't pinpoint what it is. So it gives that validation. It also allows us to communicate that awareness to other people who are perhaps not understanding why we are the certain way we are, or why we can't interact, or why we are having difficulty on a certain day in achieving a goal or an interaction, a social interaction with someone. So certainly I relate to that part of it. And I am sure that having your parents watch you through this journey with your mindset, that you have brought a lot of strength to them and understanding through that process as well.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about how you would describe yourself on those days where the mess is more overwhelming than other days. How do you pull yourself out of those times? Because as someone who goes through this regularly myself, I know that for me, I have a process, and I would love to hear what your process is on those days when it's a little bit tougher than other days.
Well, today, like this morning, is a perfect example of that. That extremity of a difficult day. My mental state is dulled down because I'm dealing with so much. It's hard to concentrate on positive thinking, more or less. So I mean, the things that I intend to preach, I forget to practice it sometimes, which it's only human, right?
Mm-hmm.
I This morning I fell down multiple times, and I got so angry, so mad. You know, there are no fingers I can point. There's no one to blame. The only one I could blame is myself, but even that is not justified at all. You try to punch a wall, and that's only going to hurt your hand and damage the wall. Sometimes, I mean, I fall down, and getting back up is even difficult. Physically, I'll try to get up, not make it all the way up to the chair, and then sit down and relax, be like, all right, and give it a minute, just calm down and relax, and try again. Do it again. Nope, didn't work. Maybe one more attempt, and I mean, after that doesn't happen, it's like, man, in a sense, I'll contemplate in my mind, even though I don't really wanna accuse myself of thinking this on a regular basis, but I'll think, why me? Why why did this have to happen over and over again? I don't understand. Because some days I can just stand up, maneuver, and pivot all I need to, and just sit right back down, and it's like, wow. I mean, there's definitely a key factor in that, in weighing your blessings, because I mean, you never know when it's going to go on. It could be going tomorrow, but then, in certain situations, it could also come back. So you can't give up on it in that sense, right? Now,
Mm-hmm.
it's amazing how that happens. But on these bad days, I refuse to say a curse word. I refuse to swear. I mean, actually, it might have been an accident one time, but I don't think so. I've never sworn. Fall down, and I'm not going to scream curse words or negative words out in frustration. Yes, I will moan and groan, and whine a little bit, even though it's embarrassing as can be. This morning, it pains me to say, and it really does. But with my mother, because she's here to help me out if I find anything. I fell on the ground again this morning, and it was in the shower in the rain, and so it's a rain shower head, but the water was pouring on my body, and I fell on the ground, and I didn't know what to do. So I turned off the shower, and I was like, all right, Mom, I'm gonna need your help. I'm gonna need help. I was laying there on the ground, and I verbally said, I give up. I don't want to get up. I'm going to just stay here until next time I have to use the restroom because I'm already in here. That's not me, though. I mean, I cannot fall. Right. So I cannot fall to that behavior.
Yeah.
It's so goal-oriented to where those thoughts should never be, and they scare me when they pop up. They really do. And then, if you don't mind, I'd like to hear your way of coping with those negative times, because in my sense, I give it time, and it will eventually fade.
It's Vera-Lee from Australia, the founder of the WhyMe Movement and podcast. Well, one idea, one vision, one person. This self-funded podcast and movement has started to take a life of its own, which is exactly where I had planned it would be. To hear the stories of the far-reaching impact across many countries in this world, it humbles me to know that my vision is shared, understood, and positively influencing people to look at the changes they can make for their own adversity and how they can find the strength, the courage to be inspired and feel connected and empowered to use their adversity to their advantage. One of the best ways that you can help support the WhyMe Movement and podcast is to subscribe to the various channels, such as the podcast platform you are listening to this on now and the YouTube channel, which has much bonus content released. By subscribing, you will make sure that you are one of the first to find out who is coming up next, more about our guests, and the interesting questions that I ask them, which do not get released on the podcast platforms, and lots of other good bonus content. I always love reading your comments, and so please feel free to leave them on each of the platforms. The beauty of social media is that you can easily share single episodes or any of that bonus content from YouTube onto your own social media platform with your friends, which helps to bring this positive, inspiring message to far more people, allowing you to be an active participant in the WhyMe movement and vision. On Apple Podcasts, it always makes a big difference if you can leave a rating, review, and subscribe to the show. Let's get back to today's story. Yeah, I certainly am a very true believer of what you focus on, you will feel. And so when I find myself in those moments where I'm not coping as well, where the negative thoughts are coming in, where I'm asking myself, why is this happening to me? I go back to what I'm grateful for. So I remind myself with my logical brain, I say, okay, take yourself back to when you woke up from a coma. Take yourself back to when you realize this. Take yourself back to. So I associate with a past experience where I have found that strength, where I have looked inside and said, I am stronger than this adversity. I am stronger than this affliction. I am stronger than this moment that is happening right now. And I focus on the things I'm grateful for. And I found that so useful for me. As I said, there were many times that I was in hospital. And I give you an example. I understand the falling down. I was in a hospital bed once. Now, I'd been in this particular hospital. I had had a very close near-death experience. I'd been there for 3 weeks and I was waiting to be transferred to a separate hospital to have an operation that would help me to be able to breathe much better. So my situation was complicated by needing some sinus surgery so that not only was my airway from my lungs a little clearer, but that I could actually breathe through my nose as well. So here I am. It's probably 2 a.m. or something like that in the morning. Always in a hospital, when you get to night shift, there's skeleton staff. There's usually not the amount of people there. And I try to get out of bed and I fall. And I am in that state. I'm hooked up to a drip and I fall and I am squashed up against the wall, between the wall and, the
the frame of the bed and where the wheels were and everything. And I was stuck in that position. And at the time, I'd been having treatment on my vocal cord to paralyze one so that my airway was kept open. As a result, I had no verbal communication for that period. So here I am, 2 a.m. in the morning, just fallen out of bed, stuck to a drip, which I was too scared to move to have rip out of my arm, trying to do that. I didn't have the strength to get myself up off the floor, and I had no voice to call out for help, and I couldn't reach the button because that was on the other side of the bed. And I sat there for what I believe was about 30 minutes, feeling, why am I in this situation? What am I going to be able to do? I can't verbally call out for help. Although it made a loud noise, the other people that I was sharing that ward with didn't wake up. So they weren't going to be able to push the button to call the nurse for me. There were hardly any nurses around, so it wasn't like they were coming in and going to see that I was there. I was freezing cold on this hard floor. And I had every right to feel sorry for myself in that moment. And I did. I allowed myself that moment to go, this is terrible. I am not comfortable with this situation. How did I get here? What is my life? What has my life come to be in this vulnerable state, and there is nobody here to help me? And then I reminded myself of how close I'd come to nearly not being here. And that in itself allowed me to inspire myself to say, you'll get through this. Let's focus on all the things you're grateful for. Let's focus on the fact that you have an amazing child. Yes, he's so many 100 kilometers away, but he's there. You love him. He loves you. You have family. You have friends. You have your connection with God. And they are the things that got me through, that helped me to focus not on that moment, which I knew would eventually pass. Logically, I knew at some point someone was going to come around, whether it was a cleaner, whether one of the other people would wake up and press the button, which is what ended up happening, whether a nurse would eventually pass by and put their head in to have a look. So I knew that there was going to be a point in time when someone would see what was happening and help me. And so it was about getting through that moment. And they are the sorts of things that I remind myself of. Those times when I felt alone, there was always somebody there. Or, I call God. People call God lots of things. Some people don't believe in God, but they believe in other spiritualities. So some people say the universe. Whatever it is, we are not alone in this place that we call Earth. And for me, that was one of those defining moments. And so these days when I get in that state, I remind myself of those sort of moments and I say, you have that strength inside. You can call on help and receive that as energy to help inspire yourself and to not focus on that situation, but to focus on what and who you are instead. So that is how I get through it.
It's beautiful. It's amazing.
Thank you. And I see that you're doing the same, and what I love is that we all go through this, and whether you have a disability or you don't, we all go through these moments in life. And it is so much about how we respond. It is so much about, yes, I acknowledge that I feel like that right now. What am I going to do about it? Right?
Right. It's, it's fantastic to think that way because it really allows you to change, what I like to say is positively shift your perspective on life. Literally in the matter of moments, it can be something so drastic in the moment, like you said, falling out of the hospital bed, not knowing how to get or what to do to get up in the moment, and then realizing, okay, God's on my side. He's with me, and I'm going to get through this. It might take a minute, but I'm okay where I am. I'm content with my abilities right now. It's in God's hands. I love it.
Yeah. And I do really embrace that, having gone through so many difficult challenges, acceptance is really important. And you said earlier about just accepting that this is the way it is. When you stop fighting against that resistance of, why me? Why does this have to happen to me? I'm really angry that I have this thing, right? And when you just accept it and say, look, this is the way it is. This is what I have. It doesn't stop you from improving your situation. It doesn't stop you from doing everything that you possibly can to help yourself through that. What it does do is it stops a lot of the anger that you project towards yourself and towards others for almost that grieving process, and that's where I love the fact that I'm going to keep going back to this because it really is such an important thing that people will relate to, getting that diagnosis as a relief rather than something to be scared of, because it's knowledge, it's information, and our bodies are giving us and our environment are giving us information all the time. And again, it's what we do with it that's important. So when I was in that moment where, I'd been on the floor for quite some time, the wheels of the hospital bed were basically cutting into my leg, and because I was squashed between that and the wall. So it was also painful in a physical sense. Apart from the fact that I was very large at that time because of the journey I'd been on with being so incapacitated by my illness and the medication and everything. So here I was, just so squashed and in pain. And again, it's about realizing that, okay, I am in pain right now. What can I do about it, rather than immersing myself in what that feels like and what that then means, and saying, I accept that this is the situation. I accept that there will be a point of time where this will change, and I just need to get myself through this now. And that's where I focus a lot on visualization. So visualization as a type of meditation. For me, visualizing helps me to take myself out of that physical pain and into my heart space, essentially, into that place where I am with myself, with hearing the heartbeat and feeling my own heartbeat, and knowing that here I am, my body is still operating, I'm still here, and I will get through this. And for me, that helps to slow myself down, slow my thinking down, and really focus on the sense of self and that knowing that you become very good at tapping into to help you through that.
Right.
Yeah.
I have there's no comparing at all with our situations, but I have what I call similar. In the same shower, the same bathroom that I was in this morning, I fell out of my shower chair one time and cut my eyebrow real bad. So I don't know if you can see, but I forget it's right or left. My left eyebrow has a scar on it. So I fell face first onto tile floor, and it had a lot of grout lines because it's a shower floor. So it can't just be real slippery. So that happened. I just want to say this. Since then, we've covered that up, so it's padded on the ground now. So I fell down face first and busted my eyebrow, and I think I broke my nose.
Ouch.
And I mean, it's kind of one of those things. Okay, I'm in the shower, right? I'm okay. If I fall down, it's all right. I'll get up. But this time was a little different, a little more extreme. Extreme. I was sitting, so I was 3 feet up. I lost total control of my torso, my upper body. So I went forward and fell out of the chair and smacked my head my face on the ground. Could have been way worse, right? I mean, such a blessing. But when it happened, I was kind of in a state of shock. And I really don't like my parents coming in whenever I'm fully nude in the shower. So, but that was a different kind of situation. I was like, come in here now, please. I don't care about seeing me. And so it was my mother, and she helped me to turn around, and after I turned around, because my nose was kind of blocked from being face first on the ground, she helped me up, and it just started running like a river. Blood just running like crazy, because like I said, I broke my nose. And then I had this real deep gash. I had this real deep gash on my eyebrow. And it was like, all right, we gotta go to the hospital, because it wouldn't stop bleeding, and it was super deep. Whole lot of pain on my part. I mean, I didn't realize just, getting a gash on your eyebrow. I didn't realize it would be so painful. I'm laying there. My mom got me a pillow and helped me lay down. They're kind of gruesome, but I'm very, very fortunate that my mom took pictures, because it's a battle or a warrior moment. It's amazing. If you will, I would like to send it to you, because it's pretty awesome. But in that moment of shock, my mom's freaking out. She didn't know if she'd call an ambulance or just call my father, and he was at work at the time. He's a self-employed chiropractor. He was at work, and he lives 25 minutes away from the house. So we didn't know what to do. My mom tried to make me comfortable on the ground, even though I was in so much pain and just blood gushing. She was wiping my face off as best she could. And, I'm laying there, and I'm just thinking, I'm okay. Literally, that's the only thing I could think and realize. I'm okay. I just kept weighing all my blessings, and it was like, okay, I'm gonna make it. It's alright. It's only temporary. It's only temporary. It's gonna be okay. So then, what ended up happening is my father came home from work. So he got to the house, and we went to the ER. And at the ER, it took them a very long time to tend to me, which is it's okay, right? But they stitched me up, stitched in the eyebrow. I did not realize it would hurt so bad. It was painful. And then the nose, that was just one factor, but it was alright. And then, it's a post-injury. It's also a factor. It's cool to me now, but I knew I was going to have a scar on my eyebrow, and likely going to be there for life. I was worried I was worried that breaking my nose would offset it, but it didn't. I mean, so there's so many more blessings to be weighed than the curse that it was and the challenge that it was. I mean, I'm sure you can agree 100%. You could have been seriously injured when you fell down.
Yeah, that's right. And, I love the fact that you talk about your inner warrior, because that, like you said, it was a warrior moment. And I understand the power of being in that state, in that it also helps to reduce the anxiety. And as we know, when we're anxious and when we're in fear, then our heart rate's racing. Everything is amped up, and that will make us bleed more, for example, and, that will make the pain feel more intense. And so being able to really try and pull that back and keep some sort of a lid on it, as we say here in Australia, to put a lid on it, it sort of contains it a little more and it makes it more manageable. And like you said, just really going in to think, okay, this is temporary. I will get through this. I will be okay. And really having that one point of focus, it does help so much in these situations. And it's something that we get very good at doing, don't we, when we're faced with challenges that are going to come up regularly. And working out a good management plan for that, not just physically, but in who we are and like you said, counting our blessings. These are the things that help to bring us back and to contain that aspect of it, to try and contain the drama part of it, take the drama out of it, and just accept what's happening and deal with it at that time to get through. So, yeah, it's a very important place to get to.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being my guest today, Marcello.
Yes, it's been fantastic.
Yeah, and what I'll do is I'll grab the link off you for how people can get in touch with you. And I want to encourage you to keep sharing your journey, to keep inspiring people. People love people because we like to see that commonality. We like to share that journey because so much of that journey, even in different circumstances, like you and I, have found this common ground. We've found these challenges that we both face in different ways. And it's so important for people to be able to feel that they're not alone in the challenges, whatever they may be, that they're facing. And on a daily level, I am inspired by listening and having you share your story. So I know that our listeners would be too. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to return the compliment. I am definitely going to try your remedy of, knowing you're going to be okay. Like when you fell down.
Yeah. Well, I hope that both for yourself and anyone else who's listening, as always, I believe that there are things that we can share to help each other. And I hope that you will let me know how you go with that.
Yes, absolutely.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Marcello.
That was great. Thank you so much. I am projecting actually trying to do something similar to this myself. And just being able to be a part of this being interviewed by you. I appreciate it so much. In a sense, I want to say this. I'm so, from what I've seen, I'm so much better writing something out, like typing something out, than verbally speaking, which, I don't know, when you're looking at hypnosis or something to, help out with that.
Well, I would definitely encourage you to look at, what you can do to keep keep your journey available to people. And, you know, if writing is the thing that gives you that platform, go with it. Whatever your platform is, go with it. I know for me, I use my artistic work as an integral part of my journey. And, you know, when I had no voice for that 2-year period, that was one of my only forms of communication to other people who weren't in my immediate proximity. You know, so that certainly became a very important part of my communication. And I did a lot of writing about my experience then too. So I have, you know, documents all over the place actually. I used to when I knew that I was becoming unwell and was going to have time in hospital, try and make sure that my laptop was with me so that when I was awake all through the night and unable to sleep like everybody else, I could sit there and empty my head out on the laptop, you know, and I could write. And there's something about writing that I find you have that extra time and space to sit with your thoughts and put it out and sort of rearrange it so you can brainstorm it out in all the messy format it comes out in, and then you can go back and sort of put it together, you know, and I love that process.
Yeah, you know, it takes away that overthinking and overanalyzing. Like, you know, you start thinking what you're going to say next, and then it's, you get confused and stuck with, like, you lose your train of thought, which it's something that happens to me a lot on a regular basis. Yeah.
Yeah, so I would really encourage you to keep going with that process, because not only are you going to help keep inspiring other people, but you understand the importance of inspiring yourself as well. And that's something that I talk about a lot. And I don't know that I've really heard many people talk about it, but for me, an important part of getting through all of those moments is inspiring yourself, because that's, for me, how you create the opportunity in what's going on.
In my observation, you know, to inspire myself will come through the words that are received and inspiring others. I mean, just knowing that I'm doing my part with the gift that I've been given in this life. I mean, it's our purpose, right? Our found purpose to make such an impact and, you know, change people's view, their observation of life, and it's just so powerful.
Yeah, it is. It is. And certainly someone said something to me once, and she was the art therapist that was facilitating a recovery group from domestic violence. And she said to me, you know, we're only ever given what we can actually handle. And I was like, oh, that changes everything, having that mindset, because instead of thinking, oh, I can't deal with this, not another thing, you know, and realizing that God actually gives us what we can handle, even if we don't believe it in the moment. And that the beauty is when you do believe it and understand that, that's when you can rise up to that challenge, you know. So it's a beautiful experience.
It really is. It's amazing, man. I've created this website called Socello, and that's my brand, right? And that's where I'm going to be hosting all my stuff, along with my Facebook page as part of it. But I have Socello to list my mindset and verbiage, and it's awesome stuff. You know, they've taught me that, look, my mess is my message. Mm-hmm. So we have our adversities, or our you know, extreme, in a sense, challenges. But because we know that we're not the only ones, I mean, really, greater than that, we're not in the worst condition at all. I mean, we can be way, way worse. And instead of just wanting sympathy and feeling bad for ourselves, we try to the best of our ability to impact others and spread our message that we've received, our God-given gift, our purpose to be who we are. Not only who we are, but what we stand for. It can come from able line out of an able person's mouth, and it's awesome. Don't get me wrong. But hearing from someone with an actual disability and adversities in life, and not only how they got through them, but what their mindset is now. That is amazing. That's the power to change the world. And I know that's on a grand scale, but I literally doing a little bit of God's work here on earth. It's, oh man.
Yeah, I think going through KBB and a few other courses that I've done recently has enabled me to really clarify my purpose even further. So I started working on a lot of this stuff that I'm doing now a long time ago, and I wasn't well enough to actually put it into action. And then once I got well enough, I was so busy trying to get my financial position back up by working so hard that I wasn't allowing myself that time and space to focus on it. So the fact of with COVID, I know a lot of people are struggling at the moment, but for myself, it's actually allowed me the extra time where I'm not out doing other things, so that I still work my day job from home, but then I have all those extra hours time that I have devoted to both myself and this whole process of what I'm doing and bringing my message to the world, because I do understand the power of inspiring others. I do understand the power of people knowing they're not alone and having someone that they can relate to. And there are so many of us out there like you and myself. And the more that we can do that, the more hope we're bringing into the world.
Yes.
Well, another story, more WhyMe moments, and more reasons to feel inspired to change your adversity into your advantage. An integral part of the vision of the WhyMe movement is the ICE acronym, I's for Inspire. When you feel inspired, you are more likely to take action. C is for two things, actually. Connection. You are not alone in this world. There are always people here who want to help you get through your adversity and feel positive about your life and your purpose. It is also for courage. Courage, in my opinion, is feeling the fear and doing it anyway. And there lies the importance of connection. For sometimes we don't feel we have the courage to do things on our own. And yet once we have the emotional support of those people who we trust, it can help us to feel that fear and do it anyway. And lastly, the E is for empower. When we have that connection and the courage and the inspiration to know, get our clarity of purpose, well, that is when we feel empowered to take the action that we want to do to change some aspect of our lives for the better. If you would like my personal support in this area to help you get through adversity in your life, you can contact me at Vera-Lee Original on social media.